Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Sydney, Australia, and the announcement of the UFC Fight Night here on November the 8th between Rockhold and Michael Bisping. On behalf of the UFC, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, this morning. I'm a little bit jet lagged. I just flew in from Toronto and from Canada about an hour and a half ago. But we are absolutely excited to be here in what has to be one of the most beautiful world-class cities, world-class sports cities in the world. If you take a look out here, we're sitting here on the most beautiful harbor in the world, looking at the Sydney Opera House and the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And what a great opportunity for us to showcase some great athletes who are going to be bringing their talents to Sydney, Australia on November the 8th to the Allphones Arena. Before I open it up to conversations and questions from the floor, I want to introduce our fighters. On my extreme left, we have a Sydney fighter from this town, Anthony Perosh, who is one of our great veterans of our sport. Not only has he fought tremendously well for us, but he's done a great job in helping us to build the sport here in Australia. Anthony will be fighting against 6'3" Gujo Iancenti when he comes into the octagon on November the 8th. On my extreme right, we have Richie Vass. Looking forward to seeing Richie Vass, another native Sydney person. He's so looking forward to have a chance to fight here in his hometown, and it's great to have Richie here with us as well. Soa Palelei from Western Australia, from Perth at the Hulk. It's great to have him here as well. Soa is a 37-year-old heavyweight who competed in the Ultimate Fighter Australia versus, he won 16 first-round decisions. He is fighting 16-4-1 Daniel Omi Lianchuk on the main event card here in Sydney. Robert Whittaker, another native Australian fighting out of Sydney, Australia. This is his great opportunity to showcase his skills in his hometown. As many of you know, Robert was fought in the Ultimate Fighter Australia versus the Smashes. He was the welterweight winner, and he's moving up to middleweight after starting out his career in the welterweight division. And he's facing Clint Hester here in Sydney on November the 8th. And then on my immediate left, the Count, Michael Bisping, Season 3 tough winner, a fighter who needs no introduction to our sport. He's done great work around the entire world. I'm going to ask him a couple of questions in a second, but it's great to have him here. He left North America at the same time I did and arrived just this morning. And he will be featured on the main event on, again, November the 8th, against Rockhold, former Strikeforce middleweight champion from San Jose, California. So before I open up the floor to questions, I just want to ask one to Michael. Michael, I believe this is the third time you've been able to have a chance to, actually you fought twice here in Australia. You fought 3 times in Canada. You kind of like this Commonwealth thing. I know your wife is from the city of Churches, Adelaide. You must be excited about a chance to be here for the 3rd time.
Yeah, absolutely. When I first heard that this card was taking place, I let the UFC know that I wanted to be on this card. As Tom mentioned, this is my 3rd time fighting here. A lot of great memories fighting here in this great country. Happy to be here in Sydney, representing the UFC again, and looking forward to putting on another fantastic show.
And Luke. Luke is he's no stranger to fighting on the main event. 2 of his 3 fights in the UFC have been main event. He's a former Strikeforce middleweight champion, so he knows what it's like to go 5 rounds. So Luke, opportunity to be the main event here and to go another 5 rounds. What are you expecting out of Sydney?
I'm excited. You know, I'm used to the main event, and I'll be very comfortable in that position. I've gone 5 rounds a couple times, but I'm very accustomed to 1-round fights myself too. 10 of those have finished in the first round, and this will be my 11th.
Well, I have 15 first-round finishes compared to your 10, just for the record there, Lukey boy. And I'll make it 16, just to use your line.
Anybody in the UFC?
Listen, mate, I was beating people in the UFC when you were out there.
Or any of those
working as a scriptogram or whatever it was you used to do.
That's my point. None of those are from somebody in the UFC.
Okay.
Okay, guys, I'm going to open up to the floor. Questions, please.
And in fact, yes, many of them were in the UFC, just to answer your question.
Luke, when you were on our show a few weeks ago, you spoke about how much you wanted this fight with Michael, how you thought it would be a great fight. Now, recently, the big news was you had this bet where if you finished Michael in the first round, so you know that would happen. Now, Jason Perosh was on our show a few weeks ago. He said that if the bet's still on, he'd like to be a part of it. So my question to you is the bet still on? And if it is, can Jason be a part of it?
He backed out of the bet. He said, what is it, a bad example for your son? Is that what I heard through the grapevine?
No, let me tell you.
When have you ever looked at a good
here's
example?
the thing. I've never been spinning on people's corners. I've never been finished. Oh, there's a good original one. I've never been finished in 1 round in my life. And when I beat you, I don't want you to have the excuse saying, oh, I was going all out in the first round to finish you because I wanted to win this bet. You know, obviously, if you look at me and you look at Luke, you can clearly see that Luke needs the money. I dress in the fighter's clothes. Luke, you know, you're supposed to wear a suit here. It's a press conference. I believe you get paid $100 grand. Incidentally, I get paid 4 or 5 times more than you. There's a reason why that is. And perhaps I'll donate you some money. You can buy yourself a suit when I kick your ass on November 8th.
Bisping, no amount of training, no amount of training that you do is going to save you from the beating you're about to endure.
Listen to this guy.
I promise.
It's not the WWE. Let me tell you a little story, guys. Saturday night, I was working Fox, calling the fights, and Luke's friend Daniel called me as a regular on Fox, and he's talking to Luke, and he says, "Hey, Bisping, you got to hear this," and he puts it on loudspeaker, and Luke's screaming down the phone like some kind of possessed maniac, like some bully going, "You don't understand, Bisping. I'm going to walk through your pitter-patter punches. You're in a world of pain. You're in trouble." And I'm just laughing my head off. It's absolutely hilarious. I've had over 30 professional UFC fights. If you think it intimidates me, if you think it scares me, then you are so mistaken, my friend. Okay? I've fought many of you many times, and you're going to be another victim. Okay? Just relax, and I'll see you on November the 8th.
I respect the confidence you have, but you have no idea what's about to happen. You know, it's funny. It's actually hilarious.
Funny. So there's a little tag team. For those die-hard MMA fans, there was an event in San Jose recently, and Luke Rockhold and another San Jose native, Kung Lee, were both up on the stage, you know, giving a little back and forth, a little tag team, a little circus act, looking like a pair of douchebags, saying, "Oh yeah, you're going to beat him, I'm going to beat him, you're going to beat him, ooh, let's all beat him." But 50% of that duo, Kung Lee, that ended with him having 3 broken ribs, a broken jaw, a broken nose, and a fractured orbital bone. Okay, so if you think you've got pitter-patter punches, I don't know if Kung Lee's checked out of the hospital yet, but if he has, or when he does, maybe you can go and see him and talk about those pitter-patter punches.
Next question.
Adam from MA Canvas. This is.
Hold on, just for the record, I believe that's 1-0 to Bisping.
Just
Not a chance.
throw fuel on the fire here. Michael, can you tell us, this all started a long way back when you said something about you were the unofficial Strikeforce champion. Something happened in training.
Yes.
Just tell everyone exactly what you thought happened, and Luke, I'd like you to respond if you can too, please.
Okay, so here's what happened. I was training for a fight, and Luke came down, and it was very nice of him, very gracious. He came down to help, and we had a sparring session. And I thanked him for that, and you know, as I say, it was great. After that, I was on a TV show, can't remember the name of it, and it was an MMA show, and they were asking, and they said, "Oh, I heard you were sparring with Luke Rockhold recently," and they said, "How did it go?" And me, you know, being the type of guy I am, I'm always having a laugh and being sarcastic, you know, just being a little, I said, listen, let's put it like this. I'm now the unofficial Strikeforce champion. And then I laughed and I immediately apologized and I said, listen, Luke, if you watch it, I'm sorry, I'm only kidding. Having a laugh, okay? And this guy just cannot get over it, okay? It's called a joke, Luke, okay? Simmer down, get over it. You're getting on like a little prepubescent 12-year-old, okay? I don't know if it's the time of the month, whether it was then or it is now. It was a joke. But, for the record, I kicked his ass in the first round, I kicked his ass in the third round. I was wearing sparring gloves, and he was wearing the full correct 4-ounce MMA gloves. He knows it, I know it, and on November the 8th, the world is gonna know it.
I don't know what your recollection is of that day, but we were both wearing 4-ounce gloves. I come in out of shape, and you're 2 weeks away from Brian's stand fight. I switch my stance to orthodox to help the guy. And you're in the best shape of your life, and I hang in there for 3 rounds straight on my hands and my knees. And you actually couldn't do nothing to me.
You got your ass kicked.
I love business. You have such a false sense of security of that day. If that's going to take you and give you the confidence of this fight, I hope you have that, because you're going to need every last bit of it.
Okay,
getting mad.
Next question.
I'll just try to jump in quickly, not between you two. Rob, question for you. Just interested why you jumped up to middleweight.
Yeah, I started fighting, you know, when I was a lot younger, and the cuts were, you know, a fair bit easier, and as it got on, the cuts slowly started getting harder and harder, and I found that I was taking a bit too much out of my game. I was feeling a bit too drained for the fight, and yeah, you know, it's one of them things that I've always been meaning to do. It's just when was the right time to do it, and I started losing my hearing last fight, so I was like, I guess it's now.
You're right. And just one final question, Richie, for you. I saw the other day you won some money in a surfing competition. Do you do much of that sort of stuff on the side? And
yeah, no, I don't compete too much these days in surfing, but it was a select event, an invite-only event. It's called the Red Bull Cape Fear, and yeah, I was stoked to be part of it, and surfed last Sunday and got the win, so I was stoked. But yeah, I love surfing, and you know, it's always part of my life, but competing isn't something I do too often these days, but that was just yeah, a unique event I was lucky to be a part of.
Just a question, Dennis from Submissioner. Just a question for Anthony. Anthony, you spoke to us on your show about the injury that you had sustained during training. I'm just wondering how that injury is going and how you're feeling.
Yeah, I hurt my knee pretty badly about 4 months ago. I tore the PCL and calf muscle as well, but 100% now. I avoided surgery, so that was a good thing. I've been training hard for a good month now, and it's 100%, I'm ready.
And just one more question for Michael and Luke. Obviously, Jacare just had a very good win recently. Dana said that he's not necessarily going to get the title shot next. Do you guys see this fight as a possible fight that will get you right there or really close to the title?
I mean, I've already beat Jacare not too long ago, and you know, I feel like I could do it again. I know I could, and you know, after I deal with this kid over here, I'd be happy to prove myself once again in that fight. Whatever they want.
Good answer, Luke. Yeah, you know, Jacare looked good. He's been on a good roll. Incidentally, Luke, that was quite a while ago when you beat him. So, you know, right now I'm just focused on Luke Rockhold. I'm not thinking about title shots or anything like that. See, Luke is the type of person, you know, if you listen to him talk, he's really underestimating me, and you know, that is the biggest mistake you've got right there, son. You know, do not underestimate me, pal. Simple as that. I am expecting a very, very tough fight. I'm not expecting a walk in the park. I'm not saying that. I'm not alluding to that. I respect Luke's fighting abilities. Do I respect him as a person? I couldn't care less about the guy. Do I respect him as a fighter? Of course he's done some things, so I don't think it's going to be easy. It never is. There is no easy fights in the UFC, but come November the 8th, in fact, today I would beat him in a fight, and November the 8th I certainly will. And then we'll start talking about title shots.
There's no chance. There's no chance for you, it's fine. And if you are that confident, just make the bet 1 round. You got to run for 1 round. Because I'm confident I'm going to finish on 1 round. Mark my words.
My purse is 5 times the size of yours, and that's for a reason. Okay?
You want another $100,000 on top of that purse? All you got to do is survive 1 round.
That's a question for Tom, right? And
Yes.
The Australian fighters up there. And the UFC's visited Australia again. We're sort of averaging out 1 visit a year at the moment as the UFC is trying to grow into the Australian market. What exactly is the UFC doing, particularly, Anthony, if you could answer up here, to grow the sport at grassroots level for participation in mixed martial arts?
Look, you know, the MMA scene in Australia is great, and UFC has a big part of that. And the UFC would love to do a big tour of Australia, you know, not just 1 time a year, but maybe do 3 or 4 series a year. But I think, you know, a big part of that, they want the whole country on board. So, you know, we want to get, you know, Melbourne on track first, and then we can easily do, you know, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, and, you know, do 3 or 4 shows a year. But, you know, at the moment, Australia has a great MMA. There's lots of good local shows, lots of good MMA gyms, lots of good fights coming up. And look at who's sitting up here now. You know, only a couple of years ago, there was only 2 or 3 Australians. Now there's, you know, close to 10 fighters, and next year there'll be more, and then the year after that there'll be a lot more as well.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, you know, one of the things that we're committed to is to continue to grow the sport. You know, in the audience today, we've got people from a UFC gym here in Sydney. It's a 4,000 square meter state-of-the-art facility, which really speaks to our sport and our brand and our commitment to growing the sport here in Australia. And I can tell you that we have plans to take those UFC gyms, you know, across the country. I think Anthony said it quite well. If you took a look at, you know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, there wouldn't have been this many fighters up here, and there'll be other fighters on the card. You know, from the UFC. As you recall, we just finished Tough Nations, Canada versus Australia, and you know that was designed to help build more fighters and to allow to have a pathway of excellence for fighters to achieve. And we've held 5 events here in this country. And we've attracted over 66,000 fans, over $10 million in gate, and many more millions in economic activity. And we plan to have a commitment to further grow that. We've actually had 2 events in the region this year. We had a fight in Auckland back in June, and I just came back from a planning session in Las Vegas about 2015. And we've got a minimum of 2, perhaps even 3 events throughout the territory next year. And from here, actually tomorrow I'm heading to Melbourne. I think you probably know one of the challenges we have in the 2nd and 4th largest states in the country. In Victoria and in WA, there is a ban on the use of the octagon. So we are continuing that effort, and we believe very strongly that it's a matter of when, not if. We genuinely feel that saner heads will prevail. We cannot understand any of the thinking that why our sport would be allowed, professional mixed martial arts would be allowed in a boxing ring, which is not only unfair, it's completely unsafe. And we will be relentless in those efforts, and I'm very confident that we'll get that through. And when that happens, we'll be able to continue to grow the sport across the country. And when you're missing 2 of the 6 major states, which are the 4 major states in the country, you can appreciate the challenges we have. But we've got great broadcast partners here with Fox Sports Australia. We've got a great commercial business that we do through Fox Sports as well. And we will continue to try to develop our talent and to take our sport to as many communities across this country as possible.
You had a tough outing in your last fight against Rockhold, obviously a very strong wrestler. Just tell us a little bit about what you learned from that last fight. How good is it to get to come back to Australia to you know, avenge that loss?
Well, I finished, had a fight in Cincinnati, and then as soon as that fight finished, Joe hopped into the octagon and said, "Man, I want you to fight in Victoria." I think it was probably 6 weeks out or something. I didn't have a good chance to get into a good camp, and especially against Jared, the top wrestler. But I wanted to have a break after the Cincinnati fight and kind of heal my rib up. as well. So, but so, you know, we keep moving forward and into fighting on a Sydney show, especially in Australia, where I'm from. So it's a privilege and to be here like some of the other Australian UFC guys helping the sport grow and then, you know, in Australia. And just on touching on what Tom was saying, I think it's just, you know, with a lot of the politicians and stuff, I think it's a lot of education, them getting educated into. I'm a big boxing fan, but you know, you've got 12 rounds of continuously, you know, standing up and continuously punching your head. I mean, UFC or MMA is mixed martial arts, so you know, a lot of 70% of it is a lot of wrestling and grappling and stuff like that as well. And the rest, you know. But it comes down to education, and once the politicians get educated on the sport and how safer it is to actually fight in the octagon, then I think you know, and it's a mainstream event, so eventually we're going to have to pass it. So.
Being from Melbourne, we hope so. Also, a question for Luke. Your last couple of fights, very impressive performances, first round finishes. Just touching on that bet, and obviously the fight against Michael Bisping. Like Michael said, he never has been finished in the first round. Not to take anything away from you, obviously very talented. What is it that makes you so confident that you will finish Michael Bisping in the first round? And how would you see that happening?
That's a great question, by the way.
I'm big on doing my homework. I study my opponents through and through, and I watched Michael. I was sitting there cage side watching his Kung Lee fight. I see a lot of openings, and I know what I'm capable of. I train with some of the best guys in the world. I know I can put him away. I have everything I have to put him away in one round, and I just don't see what he's going to do to stop me. I'm going to come forward. I'm going to put everything on him, and you know, I'm not underestimating him. I'm going to train very hard. I'm going to train so hard for this fight. I'm going to train harder than I've ever trained. Because I'm looking to go out there and embarrass this man. I like a lot of people. There's not a lot of people I don't like. Michael Bisping at the top of that list. And so I'm going to train so hard just so I can embarrass him that much. And it's going to be a fun night for all of you, I promise. It's going to be short, but it'll be spectacular, I promise you.
Well, of course, you know, as a fighter, you need confidence, and rightly so. You know, and a lot of people, I'm sure we've heard this before, there's a pattern for him. With, oh, I'm going to beat Michael Bisping, I'm going to make a fool out of him, I'm going to finish him in one round. And then it doesn't really happen, it doesn't go that way. I'm pretty sure your boyfriend said that. And, you know, it didn't end well for him. You don't like me, that's great. I don't like you either. I certainly don't like guys that go out and molest tigers while they're heavily under the effect of tranquilizers, you know. We all saw what you were doing to that tiger in the zoo, you know. There's a word for that where I come from, and that's a nonce. Mate, bring it. I'm looking forward to it. The fans are going to get what they're going to pay. The fans are going to get what they're paying for. They want to see a great fight. I respect you, you know, you as a fighter. I'm expecting a tough fight. Will you finish me in the first round? No. Will you finish me at all? No. Will you be victorious? No, you won't. But everybody's going to get to see a great fight, and that's all I care about, you know. The UFC's here to put on great fights, and this will be a good show.
Just a question for Rob. You've had a mixed bag at welterweight. I just wanted to know how many fights you are away from perhaps taking on the guys next to you in middleweight?
You know, I had a pretty big setback in prior to my last fight. I still think I'm coming back from that. I've got to earn my way up. I've just suddenly changed to middleweight, and you know, I expect to start at the bottom, but I'm just going to take every fight as they come, and just, you know, the goals to go up, not down, and yeah, see how it goes.
And the same question for Soa. You've got some good wins under your belt. A win in this card, where would it put you in the heavyweight division?
Well, you know, I kind of just want to keep pushing forward and keep stepping, you know, keep climbing that ladder. You know, my views have changed after my last fight, so you know, I never want to lose again. So yeah, and I won't lose again. So I just want to keep climbing that tree and keep trying to make myself get into that top 10 and start competing with the top 10 guys. I think my time's now, and yeah, and we'll see what happens.
Just Adam Allen again from MMA Canvas. I just got one more question for Michael. We spoke about, it's been mentioned before, the potential perception issues about fighting in mixed martial arts, specifically in Victoria. And I'm interested to know, what is your role as a fighter to change that perception in Australia? You guys are in the main event. I'm just interested to see how you guys see it. What's your role as a headlining UFC fighter in Australia?
Yeah, well, of course, first and foremost, we're here to put on entertaining fights as the fighters. That's our job. But also to conduct ourselves as professionals, you know, and you know, be good ambassadors for the brand of the UFC. You know, that's something I've always been very proud of doing. I've been involved with the company for almost 10 years now. So to act as professionals. But as I said, you know, it's guys like Tom and Dana White, and, you know, those guys. They're the guys that run the show and make it, you know, all the production side of things, and really made the organisation the incredible tool that it is. Guys like me and Luke and all the talent up here, our job's to fight, you know, to put on great fights and show the world, but also, as I said before, to conduct ourselves as professionals, fight within the rules, and, you know, but first and foremost, kick some ass, and that's what I'll be doing November 8th. Don't miss it.
Just a question for Michael and Soa. Michael, obviously you had the issue with your eye. A lot of people were really worried that you weren't going to come back. I'm just wondering, I just want to get a sense of how you feel right now. Obviously you're headlining a big event here in Australia. Everything's going great. How does it feel to know that you've come out, you know, in such a great capacity after that whole situation?
It feels fantastic, you know, obviously, you know, I had a detached retina and then it re-detached, and then there's further complications as well. So I had a year out, I had a year where I couldn't train at all, let alone do any kind of martial arts. I couldn't do anything to get my heart rate up, because that in turn raises the pressure in the eye. So literally for a year I was sat on the couch. When I got cleared, I took on a main event fight real fast, because I wanted to get back in there, because I wanted to earn some money, and because I missed it. In hindsight, I came back a little bit too quick, but that was all in the past. Came rebound with a solid win 2 weeks ago, and to be back here doing what I love. I love being a part of the UFC, I really do. As I said, I've done it for a long, long time now, it's always an honour and a privilege to be involved. I never ever take it for granted, and that's why I train so hard. You know, when I see some guys go out there and they're getting tired after 1 round or 2 rounds, I can't understand it, you know, because we're in a privileged position to do this. People part ways with their hard-earned money to watch us perform. You know, we should train accordingly, and that's because I love it. You know, I'm a lifelong martial artist. I started this at 8 years old, and it's been an incredible journey. And to be still here doing this, main eventing UFCs, for me, is a dream come true.
Fantastic. And so, you know, we were present at AFC 1 when you had your fight there, and so much has happened since you fought, you know, in that local promotion in Melbourne. Right now you're sitting up on the big stage for, you know, one of the biggest cards in Australia. I'm just wondering, what went in, what do you believe attributes, you know, your growth and skill? What do you think brought you here? Obviously you mentioned you're 37. Where do you see yourself in the sport right now?
I've been doing this for a long time. I've been fighting for a long time. You know, we were just talking backstage with Anthony, and we fought a jiu-jitsu comp against each other in 1998? 1990, yeah. So that's a long time ago. We travelled to Brazil together as well. So, and to be here at you know, my age now, I'm 37, and I think I'm better now than what I was when I was 21, because I'm more smarter, I train smarter, and it all comes with the hard work. You put all the hard work in, and you know, you're going to get you know, the cream of the crop at the end, you know, and I think it all comes down to that. And you know, that whole last 3 years of just working my butt off to get into the UFC, to prove to Dana White and Joe that I belong in the UFC. I belong amongst the heavyweights. You know, 2007 when I did fight with the UFC and I got cut, that was kind of a downfall, and you know, I just had to work and keep winning, and now I'm here. And my 3 fights in, and obviously my last loss, but you know, I got that 3 wins, but I'm here to stay, so I'm not going anywhere. And you know, UFC is the best organisation in the world, and I deserve to be here.
So, a question for Michael. Michael, you've had 3 runs up to title contender, falling over the last hurdle. This stage in your career, when the middleweight landscape is so compelling with the return of Anderson Silva, Nick Diaz being thrown in the mix, Jakari Souza rising to the top. Do you see that you can key yourself for one more rush at that title?
Yeah, 100% I do. As you said, you know, I've been close to, you know, fighting for the gold on several occasions. And, you know, it didn't go my way. I learned from those mistakes that I made. I dusted myself off and I got right back in there. And while some people may look at that and say, oh, this guy's never going to be the world champion, look at that, he came close to it and he failed. The fact that I picked myself back up and I got right back up there and I managed to claw my way back to the top again, I think that speaks more about my gritty determination and fighting ability than it does about any of my my lack of championship qualities. You know, the fact that I've done that and continue to do that and that I'm doing that again, you know, it's not easy. It's one thing to get into the UFC, you know, everybody wants to fight in the UFC. Well, guess what, when you get here, it's even harder to stay here. And I've been here for almost 10 years now, you know, and I don't plan on going anywhere yet. I've learned from every loss. I've come back a better fighter. And perhaps in the past, you know, some of those losses were the best thing that ever happened to me. Like when I fought Dan Henderson, that was, you know, a #1 contender matchup, and I lost that fight, and I learned a lot. And to be honest, if I'd have got the title shot back then, I'd have lost it anyway. You know, I wasn't ready. I'm ready now. I'm 35 years old. I've learned the hard way. You know, I'm very, very experienced, and physically, I feel like I'm in my prime and technically better than ever. So, you know, I still very, very much want to be world champion, and I know I can achieve it.
Sorry, that's not going to happen.
Okay, everyone, listen.
Jesus
there's
Christ.
There's going to be an opportunity for one-on-ones after we're finished. I'm going to square these fighters off, the main event off. Before I do that, just a little bit of housekeeping. Please remember that the tickets go on sale for UFC Fight Night, Bisping versus Rockhold, on tomorrow at 10 a.m. Local time here in Sydney. Available on Ticketek through the All Phones Arena. And I want to thank everybody again for the opportunity for us to bring our great sport and our great athletes back to Australia, which will now be for the 6th time. So if I could have some help, we're going to square these guys off.